Hey everybody, it's Ryan Hootmacher again. The journey continues in the land of bowls. We're gonna get some Asian inspiration. We're gonna go pan-Asian with a really simple bowl that's gonna consist of some basmati rice, and we're gonna do lemongrass chicken with some bok choy. All right? The idea is we looked into the refrigerator, what was laying around, a couple things from the farmer's market, we're throwing it together. Stir fries are always the default for a good nourishing meal that's gonna fill you up and stick to your ribs. So let's get started. For a full list of ingredients for this recipe, go to wellbeyondfood.com. Okay, so coming in anchor on our pan-Asian inspired bowl, we're gonna do some basmati rice. So any type of long grain rice is fine. So you could do jasmine, basmati, there's an American long grain rice. When I say American long grain, think Uncle Ben's. But the idea is we're rinsing the rice to get the excess starch off. And what happens is we have a more clearly defined grain of rice that doesn't clump. All right, so we're gonna get our rice started. I've got a pot of boiling water right here. We have almost a 2-to-1 ratio of water, so almost 4 cups to about 2 cups of rice. I'm gonna take that rinsed rice, put it right inside, and then I'm gonna add about a pinch of salt. We wanna make sure we have a nice seasoned rice. And then what I'm gonna do is, that's gonna come back up to a boil. I wanna see those bubbles are almost there. And then I'm gonna turn it down to a simmer and put the top on, all right? So it's gonna soak up and absorb all that water. It takes about 15 minutes. So let's get to the rest of the recipe. So our lemongrass chicken stir fry bowl has a couple of elements to it besides the chicken. So we wanna add some heartiness to this, and we're gonna go with some really fresh vegetables. So first and foremost, we're gonna start with some scallions, because they're just a little bit stronger in flavor. They have almost a garlic quality to them, parts of the scallions. So you get almost like a crunch. So I'm gonna hold those aside. Now let's work on shiitake mushrooms. So shiitake mushrooms are a really nice, meaty, and really deep flavored mushroom. And I don't wanna have whole mushroom caps inside of this. So what I wanna do is, I take the mushrooms, and I take a little bit of paper towel, by the way, and I brush off any type of dirt or soil, potting soil that may exist on these. Now, if you do want to rinse these underwater, you want to clean them with water the day before and then leave them in your refrigerator overnight, open, not covered. So here's the cut that I like in order to diffuse the most amount of flavor and open up the texture. I'm gonna go with nice little strips. So I'm gonna go ahead and add this to my bowl right here. I have some cut ahead of time. So these are locked and loaded. Let's set those aside. Next up, let's talk about bok choy. Bok choy is a member of the cabbage family. All right, so these are very popular in Asia. Many different cultures use bok choy. They also go by the name of pak choy, P-A-K-C-H-O-I. Basically, it's little baby cabbages, and they have some bok choy that are actually this big, which is what we're used to in the States. So these cabbages are pretty easy to break down and to get cleaned. So I rinse these and I set them out on this towel right here for about an hour. And I made sure that they drained all the water. We want dry vegetables. So now that I cut the tops off, what I want to do is kind of open it up and expose the heart. So the more surface area that I expose on these, the quicker that they're going to cook, and the more likely they are to get some caramelization in the pan. Now if you notice, I cut the tops off. So the tops were a lot of the nutritional values at, a lot of antioxidants in these. So what I do when I clean mine is, it's almost like spinach. So I'm going to separate the leafy part from the stem part, and I'm going to stir fry these at different times because they have different textures. So now that we have our vegetables done for our stir fry, let's talk about the spices or the aromatics that are going to actually flavor this and take it into a new dimension. So we have our friend garlic coming back again. And what I want to do with this garlic is we could chop this, we could mince this, or we could take the easy way out that I've shown you before is we can use a grater. So we've used this one before, but let's talk about the microplane. So this is just another gadget. It makes much more of a finer cut. So it almost does a paste. So as I file away on this, you can see it collecting on the back side. What this does is turning it into a paste. This gives the maximum kind of dispersion of flavor throughout the entire stir fry, as opposed to if we just had chunks. So that's what it's going to look like. I'm actually going to do about 4 cloves worth, but I'm going to put this right over here. And then if you do have excess that's left and you're not able to use or grind it down, you take the tip of your knife, just create a little bit of a paste, and then move that right over into here. So we're going to do about 4 cloves worth. Okay? Then next up, let's talk about lemongrass. So this might be an oddity to some of you. It's basically a tall, hardy frond of grass, and it has the essence of lemon. Now the way that I like to use this is such. I like to cut the root system out. So by cutting the root system out, I get rid of the dirty part, and there's still a little bit of root system intact right here. So here's what I'm going to show you to do. I'm taking the back of my knife, the non-sharp side, and you're probably going to see it pop out in a second. Get rid of this part. But I want to start to break this up. So I'm going to get rid of this part as well. So that is the root system. With the back of my knife still, I'm going to work my way up and down the lemongrass. I want to break up the bark inside. So this is basically a fibrous bark. And by doing this, I'm releasing a lot of the essential oils where the flavor is. So because it is so fibrous, I want to cut really small pieces. Now, if your knife skills are a little rougher, we'll say, and maybe you're getting big chunks like this, that's okay. They're a little bit toothy, and you may want to use a food processor to get a pulp. For me, I like to go Southeast Asian style, where they actually enjoy the texture. So I'm actually going to use it just like this, and I'm not going to use the food processor to make a pulp. I'm going to use just about a whole stalk, so I just need a couple of tablespoons of this. We're at our stir-fry station right now. I'm not going to use a classic or traditional stir-fry wok because I don't think you necessarily need to, especially if you're cooking for 2 to 4 people like we are. Let's use what we have and what's relatable. So we have some ground chicken right here. All right, so this is about 85% lean, mostly white meat. I'm going to use some grapeseed oil. So I'm not going to use olive oil because I have a preheated pan. If you can see this right now, the pot is preheating at about medium-high heat. Olive oil can't handle that heat or it'll burn up. It only heats to about 375 before it starts to smoke. So grapeseed oil, avocado oil, or even canola oil is our best option because stir-fry temperatures range between 375 and 425. So we want to be golden there and not burn anything up. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to a hot pan, and I'm going to put the chicken in here. Now what I want to do is, since this is raw, we're going to cook this first and remove it from the pan. It takes about 3 minutes. I'm going to use this gadget once again, the gadget that I don't know the name of it, but it's going to help break up my ground chicken and make smaller morsels because I don't want big chunks. We're not having meatballs here. We're making a stir fry. Okay, just about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how hot your burner gets, for cooking the ground chicken. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and remove this. It's cooked from the pan here. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of the grapeseed oil. And let's get stir frying. We got a nice sizzle that's going right now. because I waited for the pan to reheat. Now, I'm not going to stir like crazy every second because I want to make sure I have a nice even layer and let it sit for a second so I can get a little bit of caramelization. You're going to want to do the same thing because color equals flavor. That, my friends, is flavor. That's exactly what we want. So this is a good time to now add our shiitake mushrooms. Now these are going to start to give up a little bit of their water, and that's where they start to concentrate their flavor. Next I'm going to add the scallions. Remember, that's going to be a nice savory element for us. So far we got a nice amount of vegetables going on here. The garlic yet. I'm waiting until near the end. We're going to go ahead and add that garlic. A good amount of garlic right there, those 4 cloves. I added that because, once again, I don't want that to burn at the high heat. It's delicate. And then I'm going to add the lemongrass. I'm going to cook this just a little bit. Now the aromas are really starting to fill the room here. All these vegetables are taking on those flavors. Now I'm going to come back with the ground chicken. I'm going to go ahead and add this in because this is going to serve as a sponge for the sauce. If you have any water in the bottom of the bowl when you remove your chicken, remove that water because it'll dilute the flavor of your stir fry. Looks pretty good so far. We got a nice ratio of vegetables to meat. I'm going to go ahead and add tamari, which is a gluten-free type of soy sauce. And this is actually tamari light, so it has half the sodium. So about a tablespoon of this is about 500 milligrams of sodium compared to regular soy sauce is about 1,000 milligrams of sodium. So you get all that saltiness and the flavor without all of the sodium that typically comes with soy sauce. So that's going to be our nice savory sauce element, and then I'm going to add some seasoned rice wine vinegar. That has a nice sweet tang to it to help balance everything. And one of the final elements, I'm going to take some of these bok choy leaves and fold these inside. Just like if I was going to do spinach, which is not a problem, you want to add that at the very end. I just want this to wilt. Everything's coming together really nicely. By now, our rice should be done. I think we're ready to serve this. So let's portion it in our sexy bowls here. And cover it with lean protein, ground chicken, and bok choy. And I'm going to make sure to get some of this sauce in here too. So I'm going to take a little bit of cilantro, stems and all, and I'm just going to garnish this bad boy right like that. So this is about a 15-minute meal.